And speaking
Yeah.
of age, I know that Dynamis offers JV and varsity levels. That's probably not
Yeah.
available everywhere. So, what is the
Yes.
difference between those two levels, and who is your best member for each level?
So yeah. So I would say that Georgia definitely does their JV debate program uniquely. And so what we do is it's for ages older 10-ish to 13. And we basically give them all the same evidence and they have the same exact plan. And so we teach them the basics of argumentation. We teach them the etiquette of debate.
Mhm.
And then they get a very controlled environment in which to practice their critical thinking and research skills. And then they have two tournaments, one in the fall and one in the spring, that they get to go and put into practice all the skills that they've learned. And it's honestly like I kind of like JV a little bit better than I like varsity because the kids are usually so enthusiastic about it. And
Yeah.
I just love watching how much they, grow and develop over the year.
Oh,
It's very rewarding. And I think it's just that age, they're
yeah.
just, yeah, they just have a certain spark and enthusiasm
Yeah.
that, the older teens kind of have lost at that point in time. But um, so there's no homework with JV debate or very little. Like the only thing they may do is if they've missed a couple of classes, they can,
Mhm.
work on it at home or practicing their speeches before the tournament. But other than that, like there's no research outside of class. There's no real writing
Yeah.
outside of class.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. And so it's based on Stoa, but it's not like an official part of Stoa.
Hmm.
And so, so yeah, it's modeled after that, but not officially a part of Stoa. Our varsity level is, um, in Stoa, you can compete as young as 12 to 18. I kind of personally feel like 12 is a little young, which is why we do have our JV debate program. Um, so we like to tailor it more to 13 to 18. And part of that is that when you go to a tournament, there is no age division. There is
Right.
no like distinction between are you a novice or are you, an expert. It's you go against whomever you're put up against. So you might have
Hmm.
a team of 13-year-olds going up against a team of 18-year-olds.
Yeah.
And so it does require, a lot of research outside of class. It requires going to multiple tournaments during the year. Two is the minimum, but really three is better.
Hmm.
And really three or as many as you can go to is better because the more opportunity you get to practice and compete, the better you're going to be, and you're
Right.
going to know, oh, I've got to go back and research this.
Right.
I've got to go back and find newer evidence, that kind of thing. Um, and I would say for honestly, I can't tell you who would be best for JV because I am often, or unless you absolutely know, like, this is not something for your kid, because not every kid, right, is going to have
Sure.
the temperament or the skills to do debate. I understand that. My youngest son has not
Hmm.
competed, never competed, and he suffered from really severe anxiety.
Hmm.
And so for us, it was like the harm of him in there was
Mm,
not worth it, right?
I see.
And fortunately, he's overcome that, but it just wasn't the thing for him, right?
Yeah.
But outside of circumstances like that, I kind of feel like put your kid in debate and see what happens.
Yeah.
Um, because my oldest son was kind of lukewarm about it and I don't want to do it. And I was like, you're doing it. And then now he's working in policy.
Yes.
So you never know
Right.
how, and even the kids themselves don't know how they're going to enjoy it or not, right?
Right.
And and so even to just just do it 1 year. I feel like they will learn and they will grow,
Yeah.
especially at that JV age.
Right. I mean,
Um,
I would even say
my,
I'll challenge your 1 year. I kind of think year one is about getting your feet wet. And then I think they should stick it out 2 years personally, as long as it's not doing
well,
like the harm that you
yeah, yeah.
suggest, because it
I
doesn't
mean,
hurt them to do it. It
no,
only
yeah,
helps them, even if
yeah.
even if it's
I mean,
uncomfortable or whatever.
right. Yeah, yeah. I would love it if kids would stick it out for 2 years for sure. But I think, that's just, and some people are just trying to find where their kids' gifts are. And I'm okay with that too. It's like,
Sure.
let's try debate. You might enjoy this.
Right.
And they're like, I think I'd rather, play piano or be in
Right.
drama or, whatever. And
Yeah.
and I get to that, families' resources are,
Sure.
time resources and money resources are limited.
Yeah.
But I definitely pull for debate to win when it
I
comes
think
to
that
it.
no, I just think it's part of I mean, I think it's part of growing up. I just think it's part of developing a whole human. When we're
Yeah.
raising children, we're not raising little babies. They've got to be whole humans at some
Yes.
point.
Yes.
And just
Yeah.
the ability to walk around and walk away and say, be able to follow the flow of a conversation.
Hmm.
You can't
Yeah.
not be able to follow the flow of a conversation. So
Yeah.
those skills at the time that you have them at starting in JV, I do think it's setting a foundation. That's why I'm like, I think as long as it's not causing harm, they should try. They should stick with it, try again. And I will say, because so I'm one of the parents that sits in class, and so I'm watching the kids. I didn't see, and we were the larger group because you teach at two locations.
Hmm.
I didn't see any kids feeling badly. I saw them deeply engaged. So, whatever the story is at home,
Yeah.
in class, they're bright eyed and engaged. They're deeply embedded in conversation, giggles, happening at
Yeah.
appropriate times, right? It's just a good balance. So, anyway,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
my own
And
side
I
point.
do try to make it fun for them as well, and
Yeah.
I definitely feel like this year's resolution. I realize some people might be watching this after the 2025-26 year, but our resolution this year for JV is going to be abolishing the penny. And it's an interesting one because the Treasury has decided to not produce the penny, right? But that doesn't abolish the penny necessarily, and kids can relate to pennies, right?
Yeah.
It's just a very tangible, literally tangible
Yes.
thing for them to put their minds around. So, um, and that also, I'm kind of veering off topic a little bit, but um, that is one of the other or another benefit, especially at the varsity level, with the different resolutions they have every year.
Hmm.
The students are learning more than debate. They are learning economics, they're learning geography, they're learning, about tariffs, they're learning,
Mm,
about, the shipping industry, and
yeah.
like, they are learning uh, subjects beyond what uh, you might ordinarily get, in a classroom or in a more holistic, integrated way,
Yeah.
especially markets and economics and,
Hmm.
interest and banking and, all of
Yeah.
that kind of stuff, depending on the year. Last year it was healthcare. And
Hmm.
so a lot of the students learned about insurance and
Mm,
Medicare and Medicaid and
right.
a lot of things that those were specifically practical, not that was practical knowledge that they were gaining because, you know, if you ask the average teenager, you know, what's the difference between Medicare and Medicaid? they probably wouldn't be able to tell you,
Right.
or if you ask them, well, how does Medicare get funded, um, and those are like important things I think for our young people to know,
You need to know.
or
And yeah,
how does
what else are you
insurance,
saying?
like, yeah, like, why are insurance costs higher for some groups and not for others? Or what are we going to do about the rising cost of insurance?
Yeah.
So it's, depending on the resolution, they are going to learn, some really good, deep, practical knowledge that I just don't think you would necessarily get um, in your day to day, whether it's homeschooling or traditional school.
Yeah.
It's just a different way of learning.
Right. And thinking about the welfare of those that are impacted by whatever topic it is that you're
Yes. Mm-hmm.
discussing, that these things really make a difference on the other end is something that I don't necessarily like. We learn history, but I don't think in other places that Micah has the opportunity to really think about that. But he did think about those things in your class, even at the JV level. So that was
Mm-hmm.
good.